Triple M, the night shift. Pat filling in for Luke Bona across the Triple M radio network, and your calls on 133353. Now, what on earth has got into Elon Musk? From a man who's apparently a huge forward thinker, he's beginning to look like a throwback to a time when workers were expendable and work-life balance hadn't been mentioned. He doesn't trust his employees to do the work. He's demanding loyalty and managing by intimidation and going so far as spying on his own people. Can you believe it? Kim Seeling Smith is a future of work expert from Ignite Global, and she joins us this morning on Triple M. Hi there, Kim.
Hi, Pat.
Is there a side to Elon Musk that we didn't realise, that he's sort of, he was celebrated as a forward thinker and somebody that might have been a bit of an innovator, but this is all a bit odd?
What a great question. That's exactly what I thought to myself when I started reading about his shenanigans. And I thought, what have we missed? Here is, arguably one of the world's most forward thinkers, somebody who envisions where humanity is going and creating products and services to sort of lead us there. And yet his management style is so old school. So I started to do a little bit of a deep dive in research. And it turns out that no, it was right there in plain sight. He describes himself as a micromanager. In fact, he says he's not even a micromanager, he's a nanomanager. I think that it was just glossed over or not recognized because it hadn't been a problem before he took over Twitter.
How do you become so successful and so rich if you're a micromanager? We've learnt now that that's just a way of repelling people and slowing down, productivity when you're sort of looking over somebody's shoulder all the time and you don't really allow them to do what you've employed them to do. So, he must be doing something right, I guess I'm saying. So, what's going on there?
Well, I don't know enough about how he's managed Tesla or SpaceX in the past. All I can imagine is that the vision of the companies are so compelling that people want to work for those organizations so much because of the mission of the organization, as well as the innovative technologies that they're using and the complex problems that they're solving, because those are showing to be real attractive benefits to the modern workforce. So I think that possibly his management style was masked by these things. But then you overlay it on an organization named Twitter, like Twitter, because it's been around for a while. It's mature, even though, it's only really been around for 14, 15 years. It is a more mature organization. And, quite frankly, it's a social media platform, albeit one of the most influential in the world. It doesn't have the compelling purpose or vision that his other companies do. So I think that's what we're seeing. I think that the blinds have fallen off, the blinkers have fallen off, and people are reacting to his management style like they do with a lot of the other organizations that we see out there.
So different laws in the US. If you come in and just sack everybody here in Australia and intimidate people and use some of these tactics, you can get yourself into some trouble.
You can, and you really can there too. Depending on what state you are in. California has more of I think they're a right to work state, which means that they have a little bit more lax legislation. So it's certainly easier to fire people. But the legislation in the U.S., and I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but the legislation in the U.S. has relaxed, or not relaxed, that it has tightened up a bit. So you can't get away with what you used to be able to get away with. And I think that he's going to find himself in a little bit of hot water because of this. And I think that you're seeing this now. You're seeing some of the reversals. He's bringing back people that he's fired, in part because there's nobody to man the ship, and in part because they are threatening legal action. And there could be a class action suit. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer. I don't really have any expertise. I'm just looking at, what the headlines are telling me, and I know how human beings operate.
You're on Triple M. Kim Seeling Smith is a future of work expert. We're discussing Elon Musk and his approach at Twitter, which has been a bit of a sledgehammer approach. Kim, is it ever appropriate to come into a business? Sometimes you need to shake things up. He might have crossed the line, but to come in a little hard and sort of change a culture. Is it ever okay to do that?
You know, it's funnily enough, it used to be okay to do that, but a lot of things were masked by pre-COVID conditions where there were more people than jobs to fill them, and where the balance of power really lay with the organization. But those days changed with COVID. I've got a friend that likes to say that COVID brought 2030 into 2020, and we've seen an acceleration of a lot of workforce trends. People just are not willing to put up with what they once were,
Mm.
and they are willing to vote with their feet, and there are lots of opportunities to do so. So, there's a right way to do change and a wrong way to do change, and he is definitely demonstrating the wrong way to do change.
I think we've worked out that we don't need work as much. When I say we don't need work, the illusion, pay to pay. I know in my own life, you're sort of
Yeah.
thinking, oh, if this goes away, it's going to be the end. Can't pay the mortgage, the kids will be grumpy, and it's all going to be a problem. But we've realised with COVID that, hang on, we can get through this. There's ways of
Yeah.
surviving, and there's options. So in a way, the bubble has been burst by COVID, saying, you are in control, and if you need to change your life, you can.
That's exactly right. And people have recognized that. And people have also recognized that organizations need them more than they need the organization. So that's why we're seeing a real shift. There's a fascinating study that just came out that shows that even in the face of, strengthening economic headwinds, people are still jumping ship. They expect that up to 2 million Aussies will be seriously considering a job change in the next 6 to 12 months. So those of us like me who might have been thinking that, when we potentially go into a downturn, that people are going to, get back in their box and be grateful that they have a job. That's just not true. People's priorities have shifted, just like you pointed out.
So in this new environment and this new way of thinking, which is good, people have a better work-life balance. From our managers, how do you still get the best out of your people and, give the best service to your customers?
That's actually surprisingly easy. People tend to overcomplicate it, and it's really easy, but it requires a paradigm shift. And the paradigm shift is that we have been asking our managers to be responsible for doing a day job in addition to managing. And so they prioritize their day job, and they work with their people, they manage their people, they connect with their people when and if they have time. And a lot of managers just don't make the time to do that. And we're paying the price for it. Research says that the best way to engage and retain staff is by connecting with them to understand what their needs are. Now, you don't have to bend over backwards, and you don't have to swing the pendulum completely to the other side and try and cater to them, but understand what their needs are. And if you can provide what they need, do so. If you can't, manage their expectations. But the foundation of that is trust, respect, and communication. And honestly, it doesn't have to be more difficult than that.
Trust, respect, and communication. And the onus is on managers. Sometimes I think it's a
Absolutely.
manager who's maybe a bit lazy, wants to take shortcuts, not doing their job correctly, so they have to stomp around and intimidate everybody to sort of cover that up. So it takes an effort to trust and respect and communicate. So that's why you're a manager, and that's why you get the big bucks. So go and do it.
That's exactly right. Not only that, there are some managers who are really well intentioned, but they've been conditioned to think that that's how you manage
Mm.
because that's how we have been managing. And it proactively takes somebody to say, you know what, this isn't working. This isn't working for me. I don't feel authentic. It's not fun to do this. There's got to be a better way, and to proactively look for that better way. I like to tell my clients that I can give you tools to help you with this transition. The tools are the easy part, and I've got a gazillion of them.
Mm.
What's difficult is understanding that we have to take a different approach, that the world has moved on, and that we're not going back to the way things were before COVID.
Exactly right. I mean, no one deserves to go to work and feel intimidated or sick in the stomach as they head to work. But we're not saying, are we, Kim? I mean, you can still set boundaries. You can still have tough conversations and give
Absolutely.
guidance.
Yeah.
And we're not sort of saying that, but there's the proper way of doing it.
Correct. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I'm not advocating for just a free for all. In fact, I advocate for even higher aspirational goals. I advocate for setting, having managers set really stretch performance goals, hiring people that want to be stretched, that want to come to work to add value, and then setting those high goals. But where the magic happens is where you can marry those professional goals along with their personal dreams and aspirations. And when they feel like you as the manager have almost as much invested in their success as they do, then they'll work their guts off for you.
Mm.
They really will. And it's really a matter of connecting with them, understanding what they want, aligning their personal goals with their professional goals, and working together towards a common goal.
Yes. So if you do it correctly, it sounds like there is a way through this, and do it correctly to a better way of doing it. And if somebody is dragging the chain or toxic, and not matching, your goals, I guess you need to deal with that in the appropriate way.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And deal, the old saying about hiring slow and firing fast, that's absolutely right. Because if you don't address those early on, if you don't address those issues, now certainly give them the support that they need, give them the chance to get better at what they do or start behaving more appropriately. But if they don't, it's their choice and you need to take action. Otherwise, you as a manager will lose respect from the other people within the team. I have never, ever seen a team that hasn't been better off by having somebody who has been toxic and who's dragging the team
Mm,
performance down
mm.
let go.
Yes.
When that happens, and so many times the managers are afraid to do that, especially in the case of somebody who's bringing in a lot of revenue, is servicing clients. They may be great with clients, but they're toxic within the team, and the
Mm.
manager's afraid to act. When they do, the performance of the entire team goes up. It never fails.
You've seen that in sport as well. Sometimes there's a star sportsman or sports person
Yeah.
who might be kicking all the goals and doing all that, but their influence is not a good one, and they hang on to them for too long, and you see it always ends in tears. So I guess that also relates to the workplace.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Thank you for your time. Great chat on Triple M here at the Night Shift. You are a future of work expert from Ignite Global, and we can find you online at igniteglobal.com. Thank you, Kim
That's me.
Seeling Smith. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.